decided to make a video today about what I hope to be my newest understanding, and that's a registration of live birth. I watched a video on YouTube with this mark, and it provided enough insight where I went and got my own registration of live birth, a certified copy from the Alberta government. It seems that Mark is correct about what a registration of live birth is. He was born in Ontario and I was born in Alberta, and there are differences, but I was able to find everything that he spoke of on this form, and I was able to find more.
Okay. This is a certified true copy of my live statement of birth. You can get this by applying for it at the Registrar General. They'll give it to you. And it's very interesting because this is where it all began. This is the foundation document. All identification is generated from this document. And so if the foundation document is no good, anything that's made from it is no good. That means driver's licenses, health cards, everything. Now what they did here, this is exactly what he meant when he said, soon every American will be required to register their biological property. Now your parents didn't realize what they were doing when they filled this out, and these didn't exist before 1933. Birth records were recorded in scripture, and these only came into being in 1933 when they hatched this plan. They created a corporate fiction with a name just like yours. See this here? They framed you. See these tracks? They railroaded you. There's a child hidden behind the record. This is the record. You can't harm a child in law, so they had to protect you behind the record. And you operate a corporation. Now, this line right here is called the delineation, a line of delineation, which means anything below it can be changed. This line underneath my surname, talk to anyone who edits legal documents or who's in printing, and they'll tell you that to underline something means that it's an error and it has to be changed. In doing this, they registered and monetized the spirit and soul of a living being. From that, they created, this is where it gets really bad. They created this document. Now in law, a certificate, think gold certificate, think silver certificate. A certificate is like a share in something. And this is a legal document, and it's called a certificate. But here it says extract, which in law means a tax. My name is spelt in all capitals here. So's yours, so's your driver's license, your health card, anything you get from the government, your name is spelt in all capital letters. And when you use any government identification, you are identifying yourself as a corporation, and you are existing within the jurisdiction of corporate law. And just because you didn't know what you're doing, that's no excuse. It doesn't exonerate you from liability. You're participating. The only way out is non-compliance. Don't participate. There was a bankruptcy in 1933, and the central bankers came in and said, we have a mechanism whereby you can continue to conduct commerce even though you're bankrupt and there's no money. Pledge your citizens as collateral. That happened in 1933, the bankruptcy. And that, by no coincidence, is why these started to be issued in 1933. So you may be walking around thinking you're free and you have rights. But the bottom line is that you are owned, you're a chattel, you are a slave. And these people own you, and that's why they can do things to you against your will, because you comply. Robert Menard is teaching people that they can cash this in for $10 million. And while that may be true, I wouldn't advise doing something like that, because your motivation is improper. There's greed and there's ego and there's all these bad things associated with that. But your necessities will be provided for. And you can use this to discharge any debt if you know how to do it properly.
So what is a registration of live birth? A registration of live birth is the creation and abandonment of a corporate entity or legal title by the mother. She abandons the corporate name, and the government, or the Vital Statistics Act in this case, salvages the title. So, if a registration of live birth is indeed actually an act of abandonment of the corporate title, how do we know this? Well, by knowing what the word register means, the act of abandonment of legal title, that's what register means. And then you have the spelling of the name, which is in all capitals. I've left the middle name in this video. As you can see right there, I don't know what those two little dots are yet, but maybe I'll figure it out someday. Right? And so the names are spelled in capitals, right? So if the mother registers a child, which in this case is a corporate fiction under maritime Admiralty Law, which is evident by the initials outside the frames by both the mother and the registrar, what does this mean? It means that there is a child hidden behind this document. The law cannot harm a child. When the child, which cannot be harmed by law, uses the information from this, which is the birth certificate or an abstract of the information, you end up committing fraud because you end up being identified as a legal fiction. The fraud and identity theft that the child commits is by using the legal title of the all capital name. So why is this done? It's done for jurisdiction, but it is done by contract with the mother of the child. When the mother fills out or signs a registration of live birth for a child, offspring, biological property with vital statistics, she is actually abandoning the child under maritime Admiralty Law. Evidence of this can be found on the registration of live birth by the use of the following terms: attendant, certification of parent, signature of parent or other informant, relationship of informant to the child. The register after 7 working days. I certify this return was accepted by me on this date at. Further evidence can be found by finding the initials of the informant and the registrar outside the frame or frames within which the informant and the registrar signs a signature. The frames are also for jurisdiction of maritime Admiralty Law inside the frame. The initials are done to show consent of maritime Admiralty Law jurisdiction. The framing fraud ID theft happens when the corporate fiction, all caps, which is you, which is government government identification. When the child uses the abstract of birth token to get identification or a SIN number, because the government owns the person, you, the child, are permitted, after applying or begging, to frame your mother, father, and yourself. As a child, you are hidden behind the document of the record and the law cannot harm a child. You operate a corporation. If the mother knew what type of document it is that she is signing and initialing, she is abandoning the child. Under maritime Admiralty Law, she is offering consent to you, the child, to commit fraud, and is also guilty of fraud as soon as you, the child, get the SIN or the photo identification. Would she sign if she knew? Would you, reading this or listening to this, sign such a document?